What is your value proposition and how do you deliver outcomes? Could knowing your spirit animal help? Are personality tests actually helpful? Stay tuned to find out as we discuss this in the context of brand building and job hunting. So, one of the other things that I know you are so great at is, brand building. So, you talked about like that mission and purpose driven branding. And so, how does somebody go about that? Or do you have an example of a brand that you think is doing brand strategy really well right now?
When you think about, this will be a theme throughout this whole conversation, is that customer first and that really understanding what the customer needs are to both uncover what they need as well as needs that they don't know that they have. And so I'll point to, and it's, you guys have probably already studied it, but I think Dove Beauty does it marvelously, not only in bringing forth the human part of the people who are actually using their products by using actual humans, but describing almost the emotional side of what a Dove Beauty Bar does for someone, which, how does a Dove Beauty Bar change my life, right? You
Right.
wouldn't say that, but the way when you interact with their digital content, with their, if you see their TV ads, you can feel that there's something about this that touches my life. And that, I think that's the key. It's not saying, it's the feeling part. And so, um, yeah, I think that's, Dove is a great one. And again, customer human centric. And they got through that whole campaign that they did around Dove Beauty through talking to people, talking to
Yeah.
their users, right? Real people.
And that then allowed them to actually expand their product line through some of those insights. And now, like the Dove for Men, they've kind of been able to do the same thing. And then it's interesting because if you look at Old Spice as a brand and the way that now then Old Spice has completely rebranded themselves from, first of all, a few decades ago, um, your grandpa's, cologne that you weren't going to use. But then it kind of became a little bro, right? And kind of popular and competing with like Axe, right? And then now, if you follow their latest arc, Old Spice has flavors, scents like lavender and chamomile, and they're
Right.
actually advertising it as like the women in like a couples product.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's really interesting to see that whole arc, and that, and I feel like that is that whole customer centric, right? How are people using these? Do we really in 2023 do we need a men's and a woman's product in the
Yeah.
shower?
Right.
Or something that is, maybe a little bit better used by both. Cool. Yeah, I like that one too. Um, okay, so we don't have a ton of time left, and you're the expert, not me. So I don't want to drive the conversation anymore. I want you to take the wheel and take us where you want to go. Tell us what you want us to know.
I will center on something. It sounds like you guys may get an activity out of this. So I will tell you another life-changing activity that came later in my career. In fact, like the last 10 years, and I think about if I could have done this work and then iterated throughout, it would have been amazing. It would have been amazing to set, and I'll tell you why. So for me, it's about your value prop. So you guys are in marketing, you know what a value proposition is, but let me be a little bit more specific, and I can send this to you too, Amy. But if you think about, so I'm going to go back to clarity, right? Clarity of your value, your values, different, but those are important because they are part of who you are. But that clarity is power. Power in what kind of companies do you want to go work for? What kind of leaders do you want to work for? It helps you in the interview process to get clarity on who is this, who are these people that you're going to be working with and for. And so I think becoming clear about your value proposition is important. So what I will invite you guys to work on is your professional vision statement, right? So what in the top is like, what's your purpose, your why? What's your compelling reason for doing what you do? Now, if you're in college, or if you're, and there's still things that that you have a vision for that you might be doing right now and just augmenting your studies. So What's your purpose? And that's not easy to come up with if you think about it in a pithy 1 or 2 lines. So you're kind of doing a marketing exercise for yourself, on yourself. Who am I? And then some things to think about that might help and feed that overall statement is like, who are you? Your value proposition. What outcomes have you driven? So what value do you deliver? How do you achieve your outcomes? What are your own products and services that you bring to the table that helps you achieve that outcome? And then this helped center me more than anything, and then kind of fed to everything else. Because for me, again, later in my career, these other things, I was like, I did this, and this. But the last kind of leg of that stool is your values and beliefs. And, it's how you achieve those outcomes based on your values, right? So, I've been talking a lot about transparency and providing clarity and providing an accountability. And those things are really important to me. So if I don't work for someone that's like that, or I don't work within an organization that can allow those things to come to life, then that's not going to be the place for me. And then how do those things translate into the outcomes that I drive as a leader or as an individual contributor? So that's that vision statement. And then one fun exercise that I've done that kind of helped unlock some thinking is I did and I've done this with other teams too. I've done this for people that are working on their board profile when they want to be a board of director. But we did an animal spirit quiz. And it kicks out like, okay, this based on all these things that you answer, and it kicks out, and it starts to, for me, it unlocked like, oh, there's things words that I resonate there from a kind of my brand voice or my brand image. Mine happens to be the wolf, and you can think of the wolf as a lone wolf, but in actuality, wolves are very loyal pack animals. And so there's a lot in there that I can uncover and like tuck into how I do things, how I lead people, etc. So there's some other things in there, things like your target audience. So if you're getting ready to go look for a job, what's dream? Where would you want to work? What's that list of people? So it sounds like you guys have done some of these pieces.
That's specifically one of the activities that they had to do based on one of the other podcasts is for whatever their situation is, if they're currently working and they're in a company and they need to really define, if they're responsible for sales or if they're responsible for business development or whatever, obviously really articulating that target audience. But if they are in the job market, right, if they aren't looking, then be very specific about who your target audience is and know what it is that they need, right? And then aligning yourself with how you deliver, you are offering a value aligned with something that they need. So yeah, absolutely love that advice. And I've always said that my spirit animal is the manatee. I love the chubby mermaids.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that. Floating through the ocean as a calm. I love this. That's great.
Yeah, and it is honestly it is very much my personality. I don't get like too worked up about a lot. I don't get super high. I don't get super low. I do just kind of.
I love that. You can type in on a chat GPT. Tell me descriptive words about the manatee that would apply to a human spirit. That's there you go.
I'd be very interested to see what I get in that. So that might be, I might be a little scared, but I don't think anybody would ever describe, I would never be described as a wolf. But I got certified a few years ago in the Taking Flight personality profiling, which is based on the DISC model.
Love that.
And I love it as well. But it basically just applies birds to the different DISC categories. So, for the dominance, it's the eagle. For the interactive, it's the parrot. For the, So anyways, I'm a dove. I'm a big dove with owl and parrot tendencies.
Okay, so I'm an eagle. I'm a DI, big D, smaller I. So I've taken it, I will tell you, 20 years I've used DISC. As I've matured in my career, the I's come a little more prominent. So for what it's worth.
Yeah. So I have like 0 eagle in me, but I married a big eagle.
There you go. Exactly.
So together we,
Yes.
then can make up the whole disc quadrants. But yeah, no eagle in me whatsoever. I am not surprised at all that you have both the D and the I, and that's amazing. So for the students that are like, what on earth are they talking about? I may just make that one of your activities so that you get to know what we're talking about.
I love that because it is very helpful, and there's flavors of disc everywhere. And the key is that you learn a lot about yourself and how you can how you interact with people, both your
Yep.
strength and importantly what you need to watch for, and then how you can interact with those other styles, right? So I get really frustrated when people are I forgot the more feeling part in a work setting. They're mostly my
Right.
friends, interestingly. But in a work setting, I get really frustrated because I'm like, let's go. We got to get this done. Like, where's the strategy? How are you like? So what do I need to do? I need to take time and ask them, hey, how was your weekend? And we get in some personal conversation more where I just want to like, what are we talking about? And if we have time at the end, I'll ask you about your personal life. Like that's the curve of learning I've had to go on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then it also plays out personally. Like after I got the certification, it made so much about Ben and my relationship with him make so much more sense. Like whenever he would ask me, "How was your day?" and I would start to answer, and then he'd cut me off and be like, "The fast version." And I'd be like, "Oh, you asked."
Yes,
But it
yes,
was an eagle in him. It's like, just give me the high level. Like
yes,
I just wanted a 2 word. It was fine. I'm pissed. I'm good. Like he didn't want all the details. And the owl in me is like, well, at 11:51, I, it's like go through all of the details because you asked how my day was.
yes.
But it was just a
Oh my gosh.
personality difference. And then once we figured that out, it's like I didn't get as offended whenever he did that. But at the same time, he learned to kind of check some of his eagleness
Yeah.
and not abuse it, right? And so that is definitely the whole thing with knowing your disc style is any tool can become a weapon.
Yeah.
And so just making sure that you aren't weaponizing, but instead learning how to really maximize the use of those kind of inherent gifts that the different personality types give you. So
I really like that you said that because I think a lot of times what I don't like about those, oftentimes in work settings, then you get pigeonholed. Oh, you're a D. Oh, I knew it. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I'm not changing. So what does that mean? Right. Or if someone's an I or a strong S, right. And I think
right.
it's dangerous because what I've learned in the training, the multiple trainings I've gone through, right, that we lean into all of the pieces depending
Yes.
on the situation. And what I love the descriptor of when you're stressed or when you're relaxed is usually when you're at your strong, your position on the wheel, right?
Right. Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
and I love the other piece of that, which like depending on where you are on that wheel, you also shows you how you lean into the other areas. So it's fascinating, and I love that as an exercise because the more that your students can kind of adapt to that and really get to know how they show up, gosh, that helps so much in
Yeah.
professional settings. So when we talked about Gen Z, I think that's a huge, right? How do you show up and how do you interact?
And because, like, I remember one time whenever Ben started in a new job, they did, he had to go through a personality profiling as soon
Mm.
as he was hired. And then he was like freaking out because he was like, oh, like these like not so great things about my personality. They're going to like regret hiring me. And it's like, no, like that's the recognition that every personality, every person has some areas of weaknesses to work on. And so, how much better for everybody to be aware of what those are so that they know who is showing
Yes.
up and what is showing up, and recognizing that as opposed to like constantly feeling like, like, I don't know why I'm struggling in this area, right? I don't know
Yeah.
why this is difficult for me. Or having a supervisor then who keeps asking you to do something that just is not
Yeah.
really, part of what's going to be successful for you. So yeah, we've gotten a lot out of it. So I'll definitely incorporate that, and maybe the Enneagrams. I don't know if you've done the
Oh yeah.
Enneagram stuff. Because that's the stuff that does the when you're healthy versus when you're
Yes.
stressed, and it kind of takes where you go
Yes.
to. So I will link all of that and have the students go through those and do some analysis. So
I did exactly what Tia joked about with the ChatGPT prompt about comparing me to the manatee, and I gotta say, I think it described me pretty darn well. Gentle, nurturing, adaptable, sociable, and unassuming. If you haven't already, take a quiz or think about what your spirit animal could be, and let those characteristics guide you to greater marketing success. And go ahead and drop a comment letting us know what your spirit animal is.